Hello everybody and welcome back. I got myself a Duke Donuts here today. I just realized I have all this stuff on my desktop. I have myself a Duke Donuts here with me today. For those of you who don't know Duke Donuts, Duke is a streamer on Twitch.tv with many years of experience and many years in game development industry, technology industry, a little bit of software development and game dev, just all kinds of stuff. Huge background, very large depth and breadth of knowledge across the field of the industry of games and streaming. Has been a guest on Ash Said Hi's channel, talking about monetization of Twitch channels and different ways to innovate in that space. Lots of thoughts, lots of innovative ideas, and absolute legend and a good friend. So let me just bring our friend online right now. If I can do it. Let's go. Welcome in, Duke Donuts. Good to see you, mate.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good to see you too.
What the heck is on my screen right now?
Huh?
There's an extra thing on my screen. It's not you. It's something else here. What is this thing?
What is this thing on my screen?
Yeah. It's a DOS. It's a DOS. Oh, I think one time I played some I played some. I had a bunch of guests on Guest Star, and I was playing some Mad Dog Williams while we were talking as like a thing in the background while we were talking. And I totally forgot that I had that, and I don't know why it was still there. Hey, Taters Games, good to see you. Yeah, we got a Duke Donuts. All right, everybody, you can hear Duke right? Okay, can't you? Please tell me you can hear him. Okay. Yep, great, excellent. We're all good.
I need to turn your volume down so there isn't any bleed through, if that's coming through at all.
I don't hear myself, so hopefully it's okay. So Duke, I just wanted to get a little bit of background from you, just like the basics, like how long have you been streaming and stuff like that. So why don't we start there? How long have you been streaming on Twitch?
When did I start streaming? Let's see. That would have been 2018.
Okay, wow.
2018, like
5 years or more or less.
Yeah, I think it was June 2018. It's a really funny story. The first stream that I did in earnest, I was hanging out in Macaw's channel, and Macaw was playing The Broken Land, which is this Diablo type game. It's a Taiwanese game. It's actually super interesting. It's a very, very cool game. And he kept running into bugs, and he was having trouble like figuring out how to make it work, how to get the game to a state where he could finish it. And so like I did a bunch of research and I sent him my notes, but at the time he was streaming like around this time he would start. And so I sent him my notes, and then like I went to bed, and I didn't wake up in time to catch his stream, except when he was ending, and I was like, oh shit, dude, like there's all this other stuff you could do. And he's like, it's impossible. You can't finish this game. Nobody can finish this. I challenge anyone to finish it. I was like, I will do it right now. I had an old copy of OBS that I had set up just to do like to send video streams for multiplayer games that had like one console where like the main player would be doing stuff. I think it was Mountain Blade or something. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm just going to spin up this copy of OBS. No camera, like the crappiest microphone setup. Like the game was all messed up. And like, I was like, I'll do it right now. And I just hit live. I went live on Twitch and played all the way through the entire game after Macaw hosted me. I think like 9 hours at a stretch.
Wow.
All the way through the game. First, it was, I think, not the first time that it was the first time that anyone had streamed the game live.
Right.
End to end. There was like one video series from some dude in Russia who had done it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was the entire thing. And it was like, you know, of course I've got Macaw hosting. So there's like 200 people watching for basically the first stream that I did.
That is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So you did
And
a
then
9+ hour stream, essentially as your first stream with like your weird desktop mic and everything. That's crazy.
It was a trip, and it was like I did the entire game, and then I figured out how to do a bunch of stuff to get like this secret ending.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that when you do the prerequisites for the secret ending on a virtual machine, instead of playing the ending, the game just crashes. So I was like, well,
that's perfect.
You did it. All right, end of stream.
That is so good.
And that was like the first stream that I did, and that was, I think it was like mid-June of 2018, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, because a whole bunch of people stuck around and a whole bunch of people were like, hey, this guy's actually doing something novel, doing something interesting, and he was able to finish this game. A couple days later, I was like, I want to do that again. That was so much fun. That was just such a blast to like do all of this with all these people that I kind of already know. And so I started streaming. I think it was Spelljammer was the next game that I did.
Wow.
Which was like those early streams are a trip, because it's like the Broken Land, Spelljammer, Twilight 2000. I forget what else was in there, but just these messed up old games that like I had this vendetta against of like, well, hey, if I'm in front of an audience and there's people here with me, I'm gonna be more motivated to finish these games and have a good time doing it. And man, it's fun.
So like if I was to go onto YouTube to search for Duke Donuts, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Spelljammers getting recommended a lot. Is that the recording of that game? Wow.
Yeah, it's like one of my earliest streams, and it's been consistently one of the highest performing videos that I have on YouTube.
That's really funny. Yeah, so I guess like it's a bit different now because it's like Spellcraft aspects of Valor plus your recent live streams, which we will talk about that soon.
Spellcraft, that was another early one. Spellcraft. That's why I have the Robert emote to this day. And
a very good emote.
It's in the higher tiers, but I have the dude from Spelljammer too. That's actually, the like kind of signature emote of the Big Magnum that comes from Twilight 2000. So that's like the 3 earliest games. The coffee cup is from Twilight 2000 as well.
Oh, is that coffee cup actually from Twilight 2000?
Yeah.
I thought you must have just pixeled it. I didn't realize it was from the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's a throwaway kind of thing in a background scene, like when you get a mission, it shows a guy on a phone, like in an office setting, and he's telling you what your mission is, and there's a coffee cup sitting on the sitting on the table next to him or like behind him, and so that's where I got that coffee cup from.
Yeah.
I got this coffee cup from NK.
Oh, that's a good coffee cup. Can I ask you about flipping your camera? Is that okay?
Sure.
I just think it will look, it'll look a bit nicer in the recording if we're flipped, if you're facing each other, kind of thing.
Sure. Flip me around.
Okay. I will try and do it myself.
I have the way I have my camera set up right here, I have me facing that way here and me facing that way there.
Right. so we're gonna like triple flip it or something in the end.
It's weird because I dislike how Guest Star automatically flips my camera different than what you get on your stream.
Yeah.
I prefer it to be 1-to-1. I want to see what
1-to-1 as well myself. Yeah.
And this is better, right? This is better having me look like what I'm looking like on both.
Yeah, I think unfortunately I'll have to do that on like every scene. Yeah. So, let me just get on with that.
We'll just
flip through a few scenes.
I was going to say easier.
We're about to get
click a thing
technical
here.
help from Duke.
There we go. Now you don't have to do any work. Maybe.
No,
No?
it looks
No,
like
it
you're
doesn't
still
do
the
it.
same to
Never
me.
mind. It doesn't do it. It's
Yeah.
I gotta.
If there was a filter I could apply, then it would work without me having to do it on each
Yeah,
scene.
that's what I was just thinking. Is I could put a filter on here, but I don't think I have one.
Yeah. Where's this? Why can't I see transform? I'm like, I just clicked on it before and now I can't find it. And it's all good. This will take a few seconds. While we talk about this though, I would like to know a little bit more about like that connection that you had with, like, obviously McCall was like a bit of inspiration for you to start streaming. Did you have other inspirations?
Put
Like
Apple II filter on.
the Apple II filter is perfect. Yeah, just leave that on. I'll turn one on too. Everyone will love that. Inspirations and like, you know, that kind of thing. Like there were other streamers obviously streaming retro at the time when you started.
Yeah. I think because I actually, it's always in my head, right? It's I'm always thinking about this because it is like it's part of my motivation that keeps me going and keeps me having fun with streaming and enjoying the process, is thinking about why I got started and what drew me to both to Twitch and to retro in particular. And so I found out about Twitch a while before I knew about the retro community there, and it was kind of like it wasn't as much fun. It was less of a community and more of a like peanut gallery, you know, yelling hoo-ha at some guy doing like whatever. I think like my summer car game I saw on there a little bit. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, this is kind of cool. You can watch people dick around in games." And I was like, "That's cool. That's a neat thing. That's something that like I hadn't thought about." It took someone showing me Twitch for me to think that watching someone else play a game was an activity that I could even engage in, right? I'd never conceived of that being something enjoyable or fun or interesting. And then after a while, it was like, okay, I get the appeal of this, but this isn't the one for me. And so I kind of drifted away from it for a bit. And then later, I was looking through the Let's Play archive, the one that's LP archive, I think, lparchive.org. And I was looking for stuff that was going to be interesting to watch or to read through. I still do like a lot of reading about a lot of the LPs and stuff like that. It's all old Something Awful people and goons and stuff that were contributing to that. And what's interesting is a large contingent of that group that was writing the interesting stuff there and involved in that retro community ended up actually moving over to Twitch. And so I found Ex Mortis. I found his Sorcerian Let's Play, which is like it's extremely funny to me in a very like dry humor kind of way. The way he kind of his delivery, the way he describes stuff. It's also super informative because he knows that game inside and out. And so I was watching that, and I would watch that on occasion every couple of weeks as just like something to relax to because it was interesting and I'd pick up new stuff. And I found the game fascinating. Sorcerian is this like incredibly deep game with tons and tons of mechanics and stuff like that. And getting into it, like I bounced off it a bunch as a kid because I didn't understand like how to build your characters properly, how any of the mechanics worked, how to enchant magic items, all this extra crap. And Mortis explained it so well. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then one day I was like, man, it's a shame that Mortis did this one Let's Play and then like hasn't put up any other videos since. Why is that?
Yeah,
and
why
then
is
for
that?
whatever
That's
reason,
good question.
For whatever reason, I was like, I wonder. And I was like, what if I search for Ex Mortis? And I turned up his Twitch channel. And it just so happened that he was streaming that day. And it was like he had been taking a break from streaming for like 2 months and that was the day that he had gone back to streaming, and I was like, oh, awesome!
Just
He's
coincidentally
actually on Twitch, and it's the same dude, and he's streaming, and this is so cool. And I was like, oh hey, I've got the Twitch Prime thing. I can do a like a free subscription.
Mhm.
This guy's cool. I want to support him. So I hit the button, and he was like, the hell? Where did this person? How did you find me? And it was like,
That's so funny.
It was a very funny moment, and like a lot of the people that I've met in the retro scene and a lot of the introductions that I've had to the retro scene have been through that community,
Amazing.
through Mortis, and through like he used to be like good friends with Macaw and
Mhm.
Not Level and a whole bunch of other people that I'm now like much better friends with
Mhm.
as well. It's like all of that came from this one chance click of like, hey, he's streaming on Twitch. That's cool. And then it ended up being like just a lot of cool people that I was introduced to through that. And it was like, you know, like the first time I saw Cinotar streaming,
Yeah.
the first time I saw Macaw streaming, Dot Level, like I said, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other people was just as a result of like Mortis hosting them when he was finished with a stream, something
Mm.
like that. And it kind of turned into this thing that it's like, hey, all these people in retro are like actually like really good people. Like they're very genuine and cool human beings that, you know, like even in like my like past friendships and stuff like that, you always have this kind of constraint of up to a certain point. There was this constraint of you have to compromise between your interests and the quality of people that you want to associate with. So you have to be like, well, this person's also interested in retro games, but they're kind of a jerk. Which one weighs more here? And with the retro community on Twitch, with this circle of it, I don't have to make those compromises because everybody's already interested in all the stuff I'm interested in anyway. And all the people are super nice and really cool. So
Mm. Yeah.
it's nice to have that. It's nice to have that compromise removed from the equation and just be like, hey, this is a lot of fun. These people
Yeah.
are really likable and enjoyable.
It's funny
So
that, you know, like you mentioned that too, and there's a lot that you mentioned that we'll probably come back to and touch on a little bit more, but
for sure.
like for me coming onto Twitch like early days, which is I'm now like kind of more of an old hand at it now, to my perspective back then when I started, I had no idea how long you had been streaming or McCaw had been streaming or anybody really, because I'd never really watched it. I only joined Twitch to watch programming. I was like, I'm gonna watch the programming streams because that's the thing that I really wanted to watch. I was like, yeah, programming streams, a good way to spend some time and get some inspiration, stuff like that. So I just never really checked out like retro gaming on Twitch at all. And I found when I was like I came to this decision like, oh, I'm going to try and stream these old games. Like, I don't even know if other people do that. And so I found a bunch of people who were, and it was like the community was already, had moved on a bit from, I guess they were already, when you started, they were kind of already there a little bit, right? Like those, a pretty welcoming and broadly like decent people.
Yeah, there was a pretty established community when I started. Chubo is another one that I forgot to mention. Chubo is another one of those ones that, like, you know, I came in from watching Mortis, and Mortis was like, "Hey, Chubo's on. Let's go watch Chubo."
Right.
And so there was this circle of like a bunch of people who were streaming, and like even at that time, like I think they had just introduced the affiliate program, so it was like a lot of people were just getting affiliate. Not many people were partnered, so it was interesting to see that like there was Macaw, the like kind of lead partner, and there were a handful of other partners in retro. But other than that, it was like a lot of people who were very much just getting started and like very supportive of each other, and very it's been great to see so many of those people go on to succeed over time as well.
Yeah, it's been good to be able to find your people a little bit there too. Like that's one thing that I think I didn't realize how much I missed, finding people that were like aligned in my interests the way that I can find that on Twitch in the retro community as well. I was genuinely like worried that there was going to be like I don't know, the internet will actually kind of jerky type people that you don't really want to associate with too much. I was like, that's who it's going to be made up of, surely. Like, that's my outsider's perspective on it before I came in.
And I think that's fair, right? That's a reasonable expectation to have. And it's one of the things that makes me so happy to be part of this community is that it isn't the internet at large, right? There's the occasional person who comes in and they're just a jerk, but it's rare, right? We're not looking at a chat full of people who are sitting there waiting for us to fail so that they can crap on us, right?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of supportive people who want to do the right thing, and like the biggest problem you're ever going to have is people who get really excited to see their favorite game and they can't help but spoil something, right? Because like, oh, did you get to my favorite part yet, where the thing happens and the guy dies, and you're like, oh, come on.
My favorite part where I just spoiled the entire game for you. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
that
right,
part.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
But it's not malicious. It's not like it's not like someone coming in and being like, oh, you're so stupid, you didn't blah blah blah, right? That's really rare. But like the biggest problem we have is people being
I'm so excited
and too excited, and that's a great problem to have, in my opinion.
It is, and like, so when I started, I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go with like spoilers and stuff. But I was like, I think I want to play spoiler free, because in my mind I had like the ideal like stream for me at the time was like, I have the game, no distractions, and it's just like as if it's 1994 and I'm sitting down playing like whatever this game is for the first time. Because for me, a lot of them were first time playthroughs, especially when I started. So it's like, this is my first time playing this game. I want to pretend like it's 94 when it came out, and I'm sitting there at my 486 or maybe an upgraded computer in 94, I don't know. But yeah, something like that. And then I'm just going to play it. And like, there's no internet for me to ask. There's no people like watching me play. And that's what I thought would be the ideal experience. Obviously that's evolved over time, but I still have maintained that like, I don't really want people to tell me spoilers, but there's so many people who are excited about games. You can't fault them for being like, oh, have you gotten to the... Yeah. It's like, of course they're going to say that. Especially if they don't notice the big red banner on the screen that says, please don't drop hints. Like, it happens.
Nobody reads anything
on my stream. It's like right here, it's like this big red banner that's like, I can't move my hand in the right direction, but anyway, it's right there in front of me, and it's like, you should be able to see this thing right here, and it's like this banner. Like, okay, I guess it's fine. And it is fine. Like, I'm not going to get that upset about it now. I used to get a little bit upset and annoyed, and like, the more I've gotten, the more it's happened, the more I've realized like they're not doing it to be, a dick or something like that. They're actually just so excited about, oh, I finally found somebody playing this game. I'm so excited about that. And then they want to talk about it. Makes sense.
I think the biggest thing for me, you mentioned like kind of the idea of the like first play and the experience of recreating the idea of the experience of playing the game for the first time in its original context. And the way I think of it is this, right?
I'm listening closely because you might be about to diss me.
No. The way I think of it is this, and this is a personal preference, right? It's not something that I think everyone should follow. It's just the way like I tend to approach that to maximize my own enjoyment, because it's what I think is best. It's like you get home with your game from the store, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the manual and the discs, and you bought the hint book, and you invite over 100 people to come check it out with you.
Yeah.
Right. And to a certain extent, it's like my favorite moments out of that on stream are when we all come together to figure something out. And it's not one person being like, well, on GameFAQs it says this, right? It's more a case of like, have you tried hitting that lever? What if you hit this one? Okay, that thing moved.
Yeah.
What can we do with this, right? And it's that group thinking through it as a group and figuring out what it is. But that's a really hard balance to strike, because someone might want to feel smart and be like, I know the solution. I looked at GameFAQs.
Trust me, I know how to do this. I'm not telling you how.
Right. Right. But again, right, like balancing that is tough, but when it works, it's so satisfying to and again, one of the biggest cases where that works out is when you're playing a game that like there's no information for, when nobody actually knows and everybody's sitting down looking at it going like
there's no video of this game on YouTube and there's no tutorials on there's no walkthroughs on GameFAQs. Like
there's no World of Long Plays video, there's no GameFAQs. What do we do?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I do enjoy it when there's like, when I do need help, that there is often somebody there who's played the game and they're like, I can say, look, I don't want to know exactly what to do, but can anybody point me in the right direction?
Yeah.
It saves time, keeps the stream flowing, and it like saves a little bit of frustration for people who are just want to see the progress. But on the flip side of that, sometimes people really enjoy seeing you get stuck. And I mean, I'm sure you've had experiences with that too, right? Where people are just like, no, this is good. We're enjoying this.
I swear every time I'm like, all right. I need someone to tell me the solution. It crickets.
Yeah.
It's just chat totally dead. Hey Doc, how's it going?
Yeah.
It's totally dead. As soon as I'm like, I don't know what to do, I need help. Chat is like,
it's good and it's bad. Like, it's good because it's like, oh, I actually have to figure this out now. Like, I guess this is kind of what I ask for normally, so okay. But that's happened to me like maybe once or twice as well. Like, I'm playing a game that nobody really knows the answers to. I'm like, okay.
The other approach that I like to use to that is, if I know that somebody knows the answer and I feel like I'm missing something, what I usually do is I'm like, okay, where can I find this information in the game? What clue in the game points me to the next thing to do? What is the thing that I've glossed over or missed or didn't read? Or where's the hint in the game that's going to tell me how to solve this? Let me go look at that, and then I'll come back and ask, like, what does this mean if I don't get it?
Yeah.
But a lot of times that's interesting too, because it lets me look at the game design itself and say, how would someone who is playing this game on their own figure this out?
Yeah.
How would someone in 1993 solve this puzzle or riddle? Or how would they get past this, situation? How would they figure this out? What would point them in the right direction? Because a lot of games are designed in such a way that you don't necessarily, streaming them is kind of the wrong format.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Like, most games are not designed to be streamed, especially ones from like the 80s or 90s, right?
Yeah, especially the 80s, because it was like, you look at if you look back in like the sales charts and stuff from like Computer Gaming World and a few of the other earlier magazines, you'll see people didn't buy games nearly as frequently as they do today, and they would play the same game day after day, week after week, for months or even years at a time. I think a
very different way of gaming compared to today.
Wizardry 1 was in the top 10 chart for CGW for I think 3 years, and they finally removed it from the top 10 chart and put it into like a Hall of Fame.
Oh wow.
Because it was keeping other games out of the top 10.
It was like a perennial title that just didn't go away. Yeah.
Nobody stopped playing Wizardry.
You see that
there's a good reason for that.
You've gone to like
Wizardry is really good.
The top 50 games, like sales or whatever, on like Steam before, right? You've looked at those charts, steamcharts.com, I think it is.
Not recently.
There are some games that are on that list that are just like always on that list. Like I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but it just seems like you'd always go there and be like, okay, that's skip that, that's always there. So you're going for the top 10, but really you got to scroll down to get the top 10 because there's too many other titles in there.
Football Manager is always on there.
Yeah, stuff like that. I wanted to go back
it's
actually. If you go on with the interesting part. Yeah.
I was just gonna wrap up the idea of like
Mm-hmm.
that first playthrough experience, that like of the time experience
Yeah.
of like, I do look at it as like, inviting 100 of your best friends over to watch you play a computer game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool idea, and that's something that, like, in a way, working with playing games as a kind of group experience has been something that I've always preferred. That it's cool to play games with friends,
Yeah.
even if it's not a multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
But also, that's one of the reasons why, one of the things that I do that people look at me like I got three heads. I often try to play a game first in the condition that you would have bought it in, right off the
Right.
disc.
Well, that's what I do as
No
well, and
patches.
people have given me a bit of
Yeah.
trouble for that. I'll say, because they're like, "Oh, you should be playing the patch version. How could you play this one? This one will have
Yeah,
this problem,
you
that
need this
problem." And,
patch, and then you need the community
yeah.
pack, and then you need the update thing, and the post thing, and the Windows fix.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happened, right? Daggerfall,
Oh
Elder
yeah,
Scrolls 2,
I remember your
Daggerfall.
Daggerfall playthrough recently. Yeah. Was it
Yeah.
earlier this
So,
year? Right.
it was
I feel like it was
about a
early.
year ago.
Mm.
I want to say about a year ago.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. It took like 60 hours, so it was over the course of like 3 months.
It was a big one. Yeah.
So we found out it is absolutely not reasonable to finish Daggerfall as you get it off the disc.
Yeah, like 1.0 release, right?
Unreasonable.
Was that the 1.0 release, or was it a sort of patched version?
I think the version on the CD is like technically version 1.01 or something.
Right.
But there was no, if that's the case, there was no 1.0 release.
Yeah, right.
There's another game, Dune 2 is another one of those games where there is a diskette version of it. There's diskette images of a version of Dune 2 out there that was never commercially released, as far as I know.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
But, yeah, and don't play that version. Don't play that version. It's all messed up.
Right.
It constantly spawns sandworms.
That's not what you want. That game is hard enough. Honestly, that game is hard enough without constantly spawning sandworms. Earthworms? Yeah. Man.
So
that sounds like no fun.
So Daggerfall has this thing that like 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way through the game, you get this quest and they tell you to go to this dungeon and get some MacGuffin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, when you get a quest like that in Daggerfall, it marks that dungeon on your map. It gives you that point of interest, even if you didn't know about it before. In the release version, it doesn't mark that dungeon. There's, I think, like 40 dungeons it could possibly be. And
that's weird.
Only the first 10 of those POIs can get marked. And it's like the way you have to do it is you have to figure out where that POI is normally by knowing about stuff you wouldn't have seen in the game. And then you have to go to the nearest POI and walk over land through the different cells for about 45 minutes to get to the actual dungeon entrance. And it turns out nobody knew that was possible. Nobody knew that it was possible to walk from one POI to another to an undiscovered POI in Daggerfall before that happened.
Really?
Apparently no one had ever documented that.
I mean, I know I did it back in the day.
That like, and the key thing there is, right, in most areas of Daggerfall, the POIs are like 45 minutes apart.
Yeah, no, they're ridiculous. It's ridiculously spaced out. Yeah.
And so unless you know it's already there, right?
Yeah, and they're easy to miss too, because some of the POIs are actually like just this little lump of like earth on the ground with a door in it. You don't see it.
It will. The good news is when you enter the cell with the POI in it, it will activate the POI on your map,
Yeah.
so you know which cell it's in once you've set foot in that square.
Hmm.
But finding a POI out of finding a POI to, like, if you walk out of a city and walk in one direction, you are statistically almost guaranteed to never find a new POI.
Yeah.
But you can get maps and stuff. There's other ways to do it, but it would involve like hundreds of hours of grinding quests to get enemies to drop maps that would uh like reveal a POI. So you could do it another way, but it would be an investment of like hundreds of hours.
Mm.
The other thing is one of the main quests in Daggerfall causes you to be unable to save the game if you complete it normally. The game will crash and exit
Oh,
without saving.
I think I remember seeing you go through that on stream. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like this vault where there's like this floating thing and you're supposed to pull a lever and the lever causes the vault to like lower and then it releases these energy barriers that you can get in and get the item you need. If you do that, crashes. You cannot save after that. And there's
That's
still
wild.
like
Yeah.
4 hours of game left.
Obviously, the version
However,
that I was playing as a kid was different than the version you played, because I played a hell of a lot of Daggerfall back then. Like, I didn't stop playing Daggerfall even after Morrowind came out. I still went back and played Daggerfall regularly, probably up until maybe around the time Oblivion came out. I sort of like moved on a little bit, but yeah, I love playing that game.
yeah,
I spent too many hours in it.
it's funny. Like I loved Arena and Daggerfall back in the day, and I never got anywhere in them. I loved playing them, but I never got anywhere in them. And you know what? Same thing with Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and like
I never finished Oblivion. I don't know why Oblivion's the one that I didn't finish, but yeah.
I didn't finish any of the Elder Scrolls games until I started streaming them, because I was like, hey, this is a good way for me to finish these games and actually actually commit to, okay, I'm only going to do certain amount of side stuff because I have an idea of how long I want this journey to last, and I have an idea of how long just directly going after the main quest is going to take. So if I combine those, I get like, okay, I have about this much side stuff I can do. We did some friends of mine and we used to do this game night when I lived in California. We used to do this game night. It started out, I had bought a copy of Rogue Galaxy for the PlayStation 2. I still have it somewhere.
Oh, nice.
It's over on the wall of games that you can't really see from here. Wait, hold on.
I'm just like, if I lean, I might be able to see it, right?
Can we?
Oh, wall of games. This is exclusive content, I think. I don't think that's been shown on stream yet.
It might be.
We just got some exclusive content, chat.
A little bit.
Do it again. There we go. One more time.
Yeah.
Whoa.
There's all the Master System games down there. That shelf.
Awesome.
And
exclusive content, chat.
That's none of the DOS stuff that I have either. The DOS stuff is all in the hallway out there.
Right, yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Like, it's unfortunate that the DOS boxes that I have are all they're like kind of very dusty and a little bit moldy.
Yeah, a little bit mildewy sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, they need to be cleaned up, but it's a lot of work, and
there's a lot of environmental conditions.
I know the discs are all going to be dead, so I don't really have anything to recover from that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we used to do this thing. I got a copy of Rogue Galaxy, and I was like, I sat down and I played it for one evening, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to play this game unless I kind of like unless I commit to finishing it by like playing it every week on a set day or something like that. And a buddy of mine, Dr. Tasty, was there, and he was like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We should just do the thing every we should just do play the game every week. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't we make margaritas and play the RPG. And so at first it was Margs and RPGs, and then it was just a more generic game night, and we would have people come and visit and like join for a few things, and then we started voting on which game to play next, and
Oh, nice.
we ended up going through like dozens of games that way. We played like Romancing Saga, Minstrel Song. We played.
What year was this? Would you say roughly?
This would have been like 2013 to like 2018.
So right up until you started streaming. As soon as you found streaming, you stopped doing this. Basically, is that what I'm hearing?
No, we kept doing it. We actually kept doing it after I started streaming.
Yeah. And you've moved since then, right? You've moved away from that.
At the end of 2019, I ended up moving, but it was more
across the country, right?
Like, well, so that in 2019, at the end of 2019, I had to move within Los Angeles because like the place I had been there for like 8 years, and then I'd been there for 8 years, and the landlord was like, I need to take the house off the market. And I was like, you jerk. He wanted to raise the rent.
Yeah.
That was it, right? He wanted to raise the rent. And in order to do it, he had to claim occupancy for the place for 3 months. And then whatever. He was at least gave me like a bunch of time to like find a new place.
That's good.
Like,
at least.
Need you out by the end of the month.
Yeah.
So I moved to another place, and then 2020 happened, and that was a whole tumultuous thing. And then in 2021, I ended up moving back across the country, another 3,000 miles or whatever.
So up until about then, you were still doing these meetings.
Yeah, we did it for years and years, and we did it most weeks. I think it started on a Saturday, and then we moved it to a Wednesday night, and it was just like we had a format that was, we started out with just margaritas, and we made margaritas every week. And we found out that if you make margaritas regularly over a long period of time, you get an opportunity to adjust the recipe and figure out the exact right amount of this and like what to use for that. And you end up with, for you, a really tasty margarita at the end.
Okay.
I'm like taking notes, margarita.
I'm just thinking about the process of this, like, because I've never drunk a margarita in my life. In fact, I don't drink very many alcohols, variety wise. I drink the occasional beer and the occasional whiskey. I've been known to consume a vodka or two, but that's on the rare side. I haven't really experimented much with alcohol, I guess is what I'm saying. So like the idea that you're perfecting a mix over the course of months of gaming is interesting to me.
And a part of that, right, is that like you go to if you go to a bar and you get, let's say, an old fashioned, right, a whiskey cocktail, bourbon.
Yeah, I actually regularly drink an old fashioned when I get a steak. I get a steak and finish up with an old fashioned. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, right? And when you go to a nice bar, usually you get a really tasty old fashioned that's like got just the right balance of everything, and it's quite nice, and you're like, okay, this is great. I want to be able to make this at home, is what you might think. And the key to doing that is doing it a lot. Like anything else, like any other skill, doing it a lot makes you better at it, and you kind of instinctively adjust the recipe, and you adjust the parameters of it until you're both producing something that is more preferable to you and that's improved in quality. So you end up with something where you're like, oh, hey, this is actually like really good. And it turns out the formula for making a good margarita is surprisingly simple, right? So like, for example, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 1 shot of tequila, half a shot of Cointreau, and half a lime, right? That's it. And salt on the rim. It's really, really simple.
That's it. That's all you have to do.
And it turns out great. and you can scale it. But we also like we ended up expanding it to food. We
Mhm.
were like we would every time we switched games, we'd switch the theme of food and drink.
Oh.
And so we had like for like 2 months we were making pizzas once a week.
Mhm.
Like for like a good 4-month stretch, we were doing old fashions. Like we
Right.
and it was nearly every week. We would just like show up, do our best at whatever the thing was. We had some major like we had some major like mix-ups with stuff.
Oh, no.
I had something happen once. I don't know how I did this, but for one stretch we had breakfast foods as the food theme.
Like cereal, or are we talking pancakes? What? Like, I don't know.
Pancakes and sausage and bacon and
Mhm.
eggs and all kinds of different stuff, omelets and whatever. Somehow I totally botched the balance of a recipe for pancakes.
Mhm.
And I ended up with, instead of like a batter that should like, spread real easily,
Right.
I ended up with this like it was almost chunky, but it wasn't like chunky, it was just like very thick.
Okay.
And I was like, well, we followed the directions, so I guess this is what it's supposed to be like.
Okay.
And so, but here's the weird thing, right? So we put it in the pan, and I like had to like smoosh it down to get it to spread enough to like get good coverage.
Mhm.
And the thing just went like and like expanded up. And so then I flip it and cover and like get the other side browned. It's done in the middle, and it was this crazy like it was like extremely light and fluffy on the inside and
Wow.
slightly crispy on the outside. And I have no idea what I screwed up because I followed the same recipe again and it didn't do that. It was just
So,
normal pancakes.
so we're gonna get a Duke Donuts cooking stream soon, where you try and reproduce this recipe.
I,
Is that...
I don't know how. I don't know where to start. Like
It sounds amazing.
I need some gastronomic genius to figure out what I did wrong so that I can have a place to start to try experiments with it, right?
I mean, you can find those thick pancake
thing.
recipes on the internet. Like, I don't. You could start from there and maybe work your way
Yeah,
forward from that.
I've been badgering my chat about it for years now. Chat, how do I do this? Help.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that. All kinds of interesting stuff came out of that. But that was where like we decided to sit down and finish Fallout 4.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
And that was one of the game picks that we did. We all voted on. We're like, hey, Fallout 4 would be a good one. And this was like when it was closer to new.
I don't think I finished Fallout 4. Now that you mention it, I don't remember the ending. I'm gonna have to play it. I'm gonna have to play through it now.
It's not memorable. It's not very good.
Does it have a memorable ending? I don't remember it.
Not great.
I'm pretty sure I didn't finish it.
So I won't spoil it, but
okay.
But that was one of the ones where like we're like, okay, we're just gonna go after the main quest. We're not gonna do any side stuff. And then it was one of those things where it was one of the things where like we started getting into the main quest, and then they were like, okay, if you want to continue the main quest, you're gonna have to go do these other quests first. And they were like, what?
You have to,
and then we went and did all those other quests.
Build a community.
And then they come back and they're like, now you have to pick a side. And we're like, I just want to finish the game.
There's all these factions. I remember running across a bridge and there's like a giant robot. Is that Fallout 4? Or is that one of the Fallout 3 expansions?
Fallout 4 has
Liberty
a big
Prime.
bridge as a central set piece.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there's a robot on it. I know there's one part, like early on in the game, you're likely to encounter this bridge, and it has a bunch of like, I forget what the name of their faction is, but like the bandit guys on it. And you fight them, but like I haven't finished Fallout 3. So It looks like chat says
It's Fallout 3,
Fallout
chat
3.
says. Yeah, I was like, okay. We do have a few questions piling up in the chat that I want to get to soon.
Sure.
But before we do that, I did want to jump back a little bit, because we did have this, like, we diverged at a certain point. We started talking about specifics, like, on the games route, but there was, like, that whole Twitch streaming community thing that we started with, and I know you mentioned a bunch of awesome people that were kind of inspirational to you at the time, and I know that you've since built, like, really positive relationships with them and stuff like that. A question that I think would be relevant to ask for people who are interested in starting streaming, whether or not they're part of retro community or not, is like, how do you form a relationship like that? And like if somebody was starting now, how would you encourage them to engage with this community?
So one of the things, this sounds like kind of a it sounds like a cop out when you hear it, right? But it's much more pointed than that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I want to reinforce to everyone who wants to get involved in streaming, who wants to like become part of a community, is positivity. And I don't mean that like, woo, hey, yay, happy. It's one of those things where it's like, it's easy to come into a stream and be like, oh man, I had a shitty day and I'm so pissed off. And what is this stupid game, right? And you have to think about how that looks to people and whether they want to associate with you as a person and as an entertainer. Now, there's certainly entertainers out there who thrive on this kind of cycle of negativity, but is that really what you want to get out of streaming? Is that the kind of thing that's going to be something that you personally enjoy or that you get something from? If so, you're going to want to seek out those communities, and you're going to want to have the thickest skin you can find, because it's going to be you're going to be subjected to that constantly. You're not just going to be dishing that out to people. You're going to be receiving it as well. But from a positivity perspective, like if you see a game and you think it looks like crap, but the streamer is smiling and having a good time, there's a really easy process of, you can say, oh, hey, it looks like you're having a good time with this game. You don't have to say what you're thinking about the game. You can say, it looks like you're having a good time. What do you like about this game? You can find something to like out of what the streamer is presenting to you. You can find something good in what's going on. And it doesn't have to be this like, kind of hippy dippy positivity, good vibes thing. It can be very serious, straightforward stuff, but you're focusing on the parts that you want to see something good. You want to help the streamer give you something positive, help them be in a better mood about a game, right?
Yeah, I can see that being a very good way to, like, people like it when you make them feel happier or be proud of themselves, or have some positivity projected into them. That will give them a good impression of you, right? Want to spend more time with you.
A big part of that is, if you're like, you're not always going to be the center of attention. When you're in someone else's space, they're the center of attention, right? And as someone starting out, as someone building up relationships and stuff like that, you don't necessarily want to be the center of attention. You just want to give people a good impression that you're someone likable, and find people who are interested in promoting smaller streamers and getting people that kind of leg up to get started. So people that have a promotional channel. It's not very helpful to post in promotional channels on people's Discords. It absolutely isn't, but it gets past the first barrier. The first barrier is, do people know that you stream?
Yeah.
And part of the problem is, if you go into someone's chat and you say, hey, I stream, you're going to look like an asshole.
Yep.
Right? 100%. So how do you say that?
Hi, I can't stay long. I'm about to start streaming. It's like, okay.
Right. We all know the faux pas, and it still happens. But the problem is, knowing that the faux pas is there isn't helpful, because how do you get around that? How do
Yeah.
you tell people that you stream without saying that you stream in a way that upsets people, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of it is being there and being a positive person so that people recognize you.
Yeah.
Recognition and interaction
Yep.
are the first steps to breaking down that barrier.
Being a
The second
vocal and
step
pleasant
is
member of that community, or
Yep.
several communities, can only help you out, right? Yeah, that's true.
and getting involved and being kind to people
Mhm.
who are doing things or doing interesting things, complimenting people and that kind of stuff
Yeah,
gets your name in front of more people. And
true.
it doesn't have to be a very transactional thing where you're like, oh, I better do this because if I do this, then I will succeed. It's more a
Yeah.
case of like, you're just going to have a good time because you'll be a kind person and you'll be nice to people. And in
Mhm.
turn, be more, they'll be more likely to be nice and kind back to you and form a bond and a relationship, which
Yeah.
will give you additional benefits of like having friends.
Gee,
But a big
wow.
part of that, but a
Yeah.
big part of that is, right. A big part of that is when you are doing that and you're also posting that you are streaming
Mhm.
in the like approved set aside areas,
Mhm.
the people who know you might see that and be like, oh, hey, they stream.
Yeah.
Check it out. Right. And then if they're also streaming, when you come by their stream or you raid them
Yeah.
or whatever,
That's
they're
why
going to say, oh,
raids are
cool.
one of my favorite tools on Twitch. It's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
oh, you actually
Absolutely.
stream. That's awesome. Thank you for the raid, and now I'm going to follow you. Come check
And
out channel.
it's one of the biggest
Yeah.
opportunities for smaller streamers to have a streamer ask them, "Oh, cool. What were you streaming? How did you like it?
Mhm.
What did you do in that game that you were playing?
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool. I've never heard of that game. How did you find it?" All that kind of stuff, right? Because you're creating an opportunity to put your name in someone else's mouth and for them to be positive about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Right? Like to break it down to like the very
Mechanical.
basic elements of
Yeah.
it. It is kind of a transactional thing, and you know, like a lot of this stuff, you don't have to be doing it as a transactional thing. It's
Mhm.
all natural, right?
Mhm.
You can be naturally doing this stuff and not like you're not a success robot, right? You're a human being and you have to enjoy what you're doing and you have to actually be excited about streaming for
Yeah.
it really really shows, right?
That's a pretty
If you're
powerful
like,
way to state it as well, that you're not a success robot, because a lot of people are looking for that, like, you
yep,
know, they want to see the
it's
number go up, and mechanic very like unemotional, like, or maybe actually it's a very
yeah,
emotional perspective to take, but yeah, trying to
yeah,
see those
it's
numbers
one of
grow.
those things that like a it's one of those things that it's like if you're very excited about the thing that you're doing,
Mhm.
viewers will see that. If you're
Yeah.
like, yes, oh, I can't wait to play James Pond, people are going to be like, this dude is so excited for James Pond. I don't know much about James Pond, but I want to see this,
Or I
right?
know a lot about James Pond, and I got to understand why the heck they like it.
Why? Yeah. Why is he excited? Right? Like, and to a certain extent, right? Like, look at some of the bigger streamers. Look at Bill Bull and Rig and Macaw,
Mm,
and look at what they all have in common, right? Even when Rig's playing a game that he hates, he's still excited and energetic about it,
yeah.
right?
And that comes back to the positivity thing. If you can make your audience
Yeah,
laugh as well, if you're
yeah,
maintaining positivity of like anything, even if you're not loving the game, but you can find things to make
yeah.
fun out of it.
As
Positive
like
experience.
think about Rig's sound command, right?
Hmm.
F you, chat. The tone of voice, right? The tone of voice in that clip says everything you need to know about Rig.
Hmm.
Like that one clip.
That's good.
And and that's just it, right? That like that's why I say like it's a funny story about Rig in particular, right? Fairly early on, when Rig was just kind of starting out,
Mm-hmm.
I think this was, I want to say September 2020, maybe.
Okay.
I'm wrapping up a stream and I'm streaming later than normal, and this is on California time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, who do I want to raid? Who do I want to raid? I'm like looking through the list. And I'm like, wait a second. Wait. In the recommended list over here, there's a dude in a wizard hat streaming Spellcraft Aspects of Valor. We are gonna raid this dude and use the Robert emote,
of course,
and that's it. Like,
yeah.
And so he raided in, and he was blown away. He did not know how to react. He was just like, "Is that Robert?"
That's so funny.
It was the funniest thing.
And
so
knowing
funny.
that is one of his favorite games of all time, and like his passion for that game.
Knowing after the fact, it turns out when I played Spellcraft, I used Rig's FAQ to finish it.
Oh, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. I did not know that you had used his walkthrough.
It's so funny. It's such a funny connection that like it all like and like I was talking to him about it when I first raided into his stream, and he was like, oh yeah, I wrote one of the things. I was like, wait, hold on, is this yours? And he was like, yeah, I wrote that one. I was like, holy shit, dude.
I love it. I love how perfect that scenario is. Perfect scenario.
It's so good. It was such a funny time, such a great dynamic, and that's I think one of the reasons why, like, to this day, like, Rig and I are quite good friends.
Yep.
It's like good start, right off on the right foot, and we're both kind of like, we're both what I call chaos streamers, you know.
Chaos streamers. We'll have to come back to that sometime tonight. Before we move on, take a short break. We'll take a 5-minute break, and that way I'll be able to break down into segments or something like that when we upload it to podcast and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good, and that'll give you time to sort through the questions and stuff.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do these we've got 4 questions already from the chat, so we'll go through those. That'll probably spark a little bit more conversation, and then we'll move on, take a short break, and come back for another segment. While that's happening, I may enable some of the commands back on again. I think I'm not sure about that because I don't have like an automated way to do it, so I'll experiment with that option and we'll see how that goes. Old School Jay says I liked James Pond.
See,
that's so funny. I mean, I liked it when I was about the same age, Jay. I gotta say, but yeah, no. Looking back upon the game with a bit more gaming experience. Yeah, it's not amazing. I don't know. I'm not gonna poo-poo it, but I'm not gonna say it's good.
Here's the thing, right? I think the James Pond games are actually like, they're not bad. They're fine. The biggest problem that I have with James Pond, the James Pond series, was that as games of their day, they were extremely overrated, especially in the British press.
Yeah,
and I think that absent of people actually playing the games and deciding for themselves, magazines going, hey, James Pond 95% better than Super Mario World,
smooth animations, arguably smooth physics, good decent collision detection, bright good colors, imaginative environments. There's a lot of positive qualities to James Pond games. There's some serious issues with the game design, though.
You can truthfully say James Pond. Well, you can truthfully say RoboCod was one of the best platform games on the Amiga.
It's not an indictment, though, is it? I mean, is it? I don't know. It kind of is, right? Oh my gosh, the poor Amiga. What about Turrican?
It's one of the best platform games on the Amiga, right? You can say that truthfully, and it's not a bad game, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's not. There are definitely worse games. There are definitely far worse games.
It's pretty decent, But the thing is that the 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 gaming press was giving it like 8, 9, or like
Yeah.
9.5 ratings and saying it was the best game ever made, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't that, right?
No, it's really not. Yeah.
It can still be one of the best games on the Amiga while not being even in the same tier as the top 10 games on Super Nintendo.
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah,
Like
that's
if you compare like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, Super Metroid, uh Harley's Humongous Adventure, or Toys isn't a platformer. Games like that, right?
Mhm.
Then those are all going to blow Robocod away
Mhm.
in comparison on that platform. But Robocod is still a great deal for Amiga gamers at that time.
Yeah.
It's not competing in the same space as like the best stuff that was coming out of Japan at the time.
Right. And to be fair, like the DOS ports and stuff like that were also good. Like they didn't screw up the DOS port for Robocod,
Yeah.
which was like
it
seems...
got ported everywhere, and the ports all play relatively the same.
Yeah. Well, that was a great little tangent about James Pond. Let's pick up the question. Some of these are going to be really quick. So,
Sure.
So Sushi Bar asked about an hour ago, would you consider giving up your mug to us? Which I think means the one you're drinking from right now. Do you want to give that to Sushi Bar?
I can't give this up. I promised Anne I wouldn't give it away or sell it.
There you go.
It's a very limited edition mug. There's like a small chip forming on the on the rim, so I might have to see about preserving it or repairing it or replacing it.
We got a really good question here from Dr. CDCS, who is the first guest on this podcast. Actually, was Dr. CDCS.
Excellent choice.
Yeah. And it was very spur of the moment. I'm to this day very appreciative of that. What do you think is the one thing... Sorry, let me start that again. What do you think is one thing that Twitch as a platform could announce at the next TwitchCon that would have an immediate and positive impact on the Twitch retro community? That's a big question. I'm not even sure I can come up with an answer for that one. I'll think about you if you've got something.
There's... Immediate is what makes it tough, right?
I used to have an answer for this, but they've kind of already done it. I can still see some improvements on the way that we do categorizing, because some people are looking for a specific game, and the easiest way to do it is to use the categories. And right now, we all just stream under retro, basically. Like some of us stream under the game titles, but most of us.
I've actually done. That's one of the things that I was gonna mention is, one of the things that would help retro specifically is hosting, because the way that hosting worked benefited retro to a much larger extent than it did other communities because of the size similarities, because of how retro is kind of interconnected, especially our particular circles in it, because of the way that retro works. Hosting provided a huge benefit to people within retro, right? That would be something that I think would have an immediate effect, because it would get people excited, and it would get that kind of, it would reinvigorate the excitement for that feature, which would cause a lot of people to do it more often, which would influence, used to influence the discovery algorithms for people that were watching channels. Largely hosted channels got better discovery.
Yeah. I liked the host trains sort of thing that would happen sometimes. Like, you know, that used to be a really fun thing to do. Like you'd be watching a channel, or you'd be streaming, and like somebody's like, oh, I'll host because this is really interesting content. And then you're like, yeah, I'll host this too. Like, that's a good idea. And then a bunch of other people start hosting, and suddenly,
hit button, get sound, right?
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It's like...
hit button, get sound. I love that Rig made the fake host for that.
Yeah, that's a very good command. The old Rig host command, very good. He has some good community features like that I think are filling a void. And I think Twitch could probably fill some of those voids with like more tools. They've got the reactions. You can react to a stream. So it's like you can right now, like, I think it's, I don't know if it's still, if it was ever,
I think it was,
it's an experiment or it's gone. But you can like, you should be able to go to my stream and then like click on like, oh, this was funny, or this was like, this made me upset or whatever.
Hype.
Yeah.
Thanks
so like
for
a hype. Yeah. So you can do that. And it's like, it lets the streamer know, oh, there was a segment where a lot of people reacted this way. But it's not really in your face. So just moving that into the...
Have you seen the YouTube feature? That's like kind of similar to that?
You mean the heart, you click the heart and it does the emojis in the chat? I like that feature. Twitch should add something like that. Right in the chat.
Yeah.
That would be big.
Like little button to spam stuff to show that you're having a reaction to a specific thing more than just emote spam that pushes the chat up. You know what I did, right? You know what I did with that? I believe the behind the scenes thing, it's called the emoji fountain.
Yeah, you're doing the food thing, right?
Yeah, I hooked it up to the food cannon.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know that, I'll describe it. Duke Donuts on his channel, you go to his channel, you can cheer bits under a certain value, and one piece of food for each bit will fire out of the bottom right corner of his screen, little like pixelated food icons, and it'll play a little food sound. There's a variety of those with different seed values, I guess, for how random they are to occur. And it just fires those across the screen, and it looks hilarious, especially when there's like a series of people doing it. There's other ways to trigger the food command as well, but through
channel points. I have on YouTube, I have a chat command for it as well. But I managed to hook into that emoji fountain, so when people mash the emoji fountain, it shoots blasts of food out.
Yeah.
And since I can detect what the different emojis are, I eventually want to hook that up to different stuff as well, so that it's like,
oh, that's a great idea.
Different things to spam.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And it'd be also great if you could connect it to the type of emoji. It was like it's relevant to that type of emoji.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
I like that feature. Like that feature would add a lot to any Twitch stream. I think just moving the I react this way to the stream into the chat area somehow, like similar to the emoji fountain, whatever it's called on YouTube.
It's been around since what, like 2005. That like Facebook had the like thumbs up, heart, smiley face.
Yeah,
it's a really simple paradigm of like, here's a palette of a few positive emotions that you can attach to this event,
and it's there already. We already have it. It's just not that accessible. People don't really look at it and use the feature because of where it is. Like the UX is like not thinking about it really, and it's like, put it in the chat and make it really easy to click. And I guarantee more people will start using it, and it'll help streamers more, it'll help viewers more, and they can use that as a signal to be like, oh, people are laughing a lot at this content.
Yeah.
Let's like promote that, because people who are looking for something funny.
It also gives, like, the emoji fountain, the way YouTube does it, gives a median, intermediate reaction interaction kind of thing. Hey, MP83, how's it going? Where some people don't feel comfortable saying something, coming up with something to say, and putting it in the chat. They don't like seeing their name appear.
I was thinking about that
list and on the stream. And it gives people an opportunity to say, hey, I find this funny. I can just click this button and it just puts a little thing on it. So you won't feel as self-conscious doing that as even typing lol, right? Your name's going to appear and someone might say hello and you might be like, right? And having a way for people to get involved and get engaged without that commitment is really nice. It's nice to have that and give them that opportunity to say, hey, I like this. This is funny, without committing to it so much as to put their name out there.
Yeah, I remember, like, recently I had this thought, like, and it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit stupid the way I thought of this, but it just occurred to me. It's like, you're thinking about, like, the hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution and generations of people who, like, strive through adversity, and there's finally some person sitting in front of their keyboard and they're watching their favorite streamer and they never said a word and they just type like hi and press enter, and it's like that just pops up on the screen. That's it. That's the culmination of all these years of success. And that's the thing that they have to be able to, like, you know, hi, and it just pops up on the screen and scrolls past, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, it's, yeah, if having something a little bit more powerful in their hands to do, like, you know, they introduced the introduction feature, like introduce yourself feature, which I like, but yeah, it feels like just having something a little bit more powerful that's not just dropping an emoji, like a lol emoji or something in the chat. It's just like something a bit more, with a bit more oomph to it.
I think a big part of it for me is that I want to support a broad range of personality types. I want them all to feel like they're welcome and that they can engage in the amount of interaction that they want without having to cross certain boundaries that some people might feel uncomfortable with. And, you know, having a way to like do things anonymously and having a way to like interact and say, without saying anything, to give people like a, hey, I like this, hey, this is funny, here's a small palette of prefix things to say that you can just mash on and say like good.
It'd be
good
really
job.
nice to have, like, it'd be really nice to have something like that. I'd be psyched to see it.
On the other side of things, right, like if Twitch announced at TwitchCon that they fixed their like recommendation algorithms, or that they actually finally got AV1 done, like that would be great. But I don't think it's the same like thing that Doc is looking for in that question of like something immediate that overwhelmingly benefits retro, maybe more so than other content types. But like that's all back of house stuff that like, I mean, we can talk about that and Chad will be like, what? I don't.
we're probably going to dive pretty deep into some subjects soon. So in the next segment, probably we'll start to touch more on the technical side of streaming. There's a lot of aspects we have to talk about too. So if you're interested in that, stick around. We still got a couple more questions from the viewers that we can go through. We've got two more. Borjans has a question. I'll try and read verbatim again. What do you think about being part of the Retro Twitch community and part of Docember? I guess this is to me. Did you sign up to Docember this year?
I have not signed up for Docember, but I will probably be streaming some DOS stuff. Just
yeah, just be part of it that way.
I'm always edgy about it because I'm like, I can't really provide the commitment that I'll do a lot of this stuff, so I don't want to let anybody down, right? I'm always like wary, like, you know, getting me on here like this was like, hey, do you want to do this in 52 hours? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I figured giving you a concrete number was better than like Saturday afternoon, because like obviously we're in different parts of the world, it gets confusing. No,
but again, right, like I knew this was coming, I knew we were going to do it, but it wasn't one of those things where it was like, hey, can you commit to this like 3 months out?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a case of like, hey, can you do this one thing for one day, 2 days from now? And like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that works good for me, because I'm really bad at the deeper aspects of making sure things are organized. So like if I know it's like within a few days from now, like I can plan out that far pretty easily, but planning out 3 weeks or more is really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess this question is more for me. There's also a little bit more to the question, which is, and will we see Mike's face on the next Docember t-shirt? The answer to that is no. I'm not going to put my face on any of the Docember t-shirts. I won't say I'll never put my face on a t-shirt. That I guess could happen, but I have no plans for it at the moment. I'm excited about Docember. Yeah, being part of the Retro Twitch community has been a life-changing event for me, honestly. Like, I'd had zero expectations of being, you know, streaming to, like, it's been over 3 years now I've been streaming. I had zero expectations of making it that far. I thought it could last several months before I needed to, like, do other stuff. But no, it's really become a huge part of my life that I value greatly. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Honestly, Mike came out of nowhere. Yeah, I did. That's thanks to your mom. Yeah, I didn't have any connections with the Twitch retro community at all. I just sort of went. I always wanted to produce content, of that type, like YouTube videos. Like, there's like stuff that I've made before that I never released publicly because of my I'm just going to call it anxiety. Other people might have different names for it, but that's what it feels like to me. And so I just never really released stuff, never really put myself out there. But streaming was like the one thing that got me to bypass that problem, which I'm very grateful to have discovered, because it's given me an opportunity to put the things out there that I've always wanted to, and never really had an avenue or channel for it. So yeah, I love being part of the Twitch retro community. Twitch has been, like I said, it's been life-changing. It connected me with a lot of great friends, people I would definitely consider great friends to this day. Some of my best friends I've met on Twitch these days. So yeah, very amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here with that.
Suddenly remember everyone being super hype about Mike streaming, and I was like, who? Well, thanks. I mean, I'm glad to hear that people were hype about it. That's awesome. We've got one more question. Did you have any comments on that? I think we already talked at length about how we love being part of the Twitch retro community, but do you have any additions?
I think an important thing with the Twitch retro community that I think is a really healthy sign is that there are a lot of new streamers coming up all the time that I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go watch this person, and like there's 2 or 3 people watching and I'm having a great time, even just lurking, because I have a habit of putting 3 or 4 streams on while I'm working.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all on like kind of low volume, and I'll switch between which one I'm paying attention to, which is why you might see me say like hi and then not say anything for a long time, because I'm like my attention is scattered. But it's really cool to like be able to get different perspectives and people doing still doing new stuff. People like are playing games that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Or they're playing a game that I know a lot about in a way that I never thought to. Right? They do something and I'm like, I never considered casting hold person on that dude in Pool of Radiance, and holy shit, it works. Right? which is wild, because like you always, it's a trick, it's a trap to think that you've seen everything about a game, to think that you know everything about a game, or that you've seen all of the games, or that you've played so many of the games, because there's always more. There's always something else out there that somebody else will like figure out or do weirdly, and you'll see it and you'll be like, what? And that this is happening with games that are, 40 years old now. It's like, holy crap.
These ancient things.
People are still showing me new stuff about, like, are still showing me new stuff about games I thought I knew well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I have a similar experience. Like, there's been sometimes I've watched people play games I feel very familiar with and have seen that too. It is interesting, fascinating, even.
Yeah, and I think it's really healthy that new people can come into this community, that they can start doing something and show veterans new stuff that they haven't seen before. That you can be like, I've never heard of this game. What is this? This looks cool as hell.
Yeah.
You're like, I thought I looked at every DOS RPG, but apparently not.
Apparently not. Right? Yeah.
And that happens frequently, and it's like it's really exciting to like continue to dig all of these new things up out of this seemingly limitless well of retro games. And I love that about the retro community, that like there's still people doing new stuff. And even if somebody plays a game exactly the same way I do, like a good example of this, right? Of like 4 people that I've convinced to play Daughter of Serpents.
Yeah.
3 of them played it almost exactly the same way I did the first time I played it.
Right. Was that me? Was I one of those?
You were one of them.
Okay, yeah.
And
Someone else though did it different.
Part of it, and from a game design perspective, it's a very interesting thing that part of it is that people who play video games don't say no.
Mm,
When someone says, "Would you like to help us with this investigation?" Sure, why not?
yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah.
Video game players are a very agreeable lot. They love to help.
We've been
out and do
trained.
stuff.
We've been trained. You got to do the
Right.
quest. It's like here's
Right.
a challenge. Do it. Okay, I'll do it.
But and mild spoiler for Daughter of Serpents, but saying no to things causes the you've got
I
your
can still hear you.
earphones
I'm just miming it.
in. Saying no to things causes the plot to branch off, and it's like you said no to this,
Yeah.
so this other thing happened in the meantime, and you can get back to like you can loop back into the main thread of the plot in a different way from a different perspective,
Mm.
which is interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually. So here's a spoiler for my December queue. I'm actually going to be playing.
Doc asked a very good question.
I see it too. Yeah, we'll get to that. We've got one more question to go through before we get to that one. But yes, I am actually going to be playing Daughter of Serpents again for December with the
Awesome.
express plan that I am going to try to find alternate paths, because last time I played it twice so far. Both playthroughs were very similar, but also I found some unique qualities between them, like found some interesting things. I think there was one thing you said, oh, I didn't know you could do that with one of my playthroughs. So
like I was saying,
yeah.
right? Like you often find like, and like Solid Snack mined out all of this stuff from Daughter of Serpents. He played that game for like 3 streams straight, I want to say, or something like that.
Yeah, good on him.
He played through every variation, tried all this different stuff, and like it was fascinating to watch. And still you did something that I didn't even see him do.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, and that's the that game is like a totally fascinating game, and I think maybe we should come back and talk about it a little bit more after the break. Yeah. But yeah, I really am psyched for it. And everything that I've heard about it, I keep on getting excited to play more of it. So I'm looking forward to it again. All right, so we're moving on through the questions from the audience. We got a this is from Zachary Hutton. Don't you have a recorded copy of the stream where you made the Uber pancake? Did you actually stream that?
I did not stream that. That was actually a couple of years before I started streaming.
Okay.
It was during one of the community game nights that we had of the local friend group in LA.
So you never actually
started
streamed any cooking before?
I have not streamed any cooking before, no.
Okay.
The closest is I've streamed eating something that I cooked. And my viewership went up by 25% while I was doing that. So I don't know why I don't do it more often.
Who knows? Yeah. My plan for my 6,000 follower celebration is to cook and eat some food. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll see a 25% bump while that happens too. You know.
I hope so. Plus, you have the added reward of being able to eat delicious food afterwards.
Yes, exactly. All right, we do have one final question that snuck in before the break. We'll go ahead and ask this one. Dr. CDCS again writes, all right, I'll ask another question. How old must a game and or console be in order to be considered retro? AKA, why is the PS3 retro and why is everyone who says otherwise wrong and just living in denial? This is a perfect question.
Chat, I have a question for chat before we get into this. Chat, are you ready to turn into skeletons? Because I'm going to tell you about my retro calculation, and it's going to make you feel like a skeleton. So the retro calculation it's the retro equidistance formula, which is you take the thing, is this retro, you ask, right? You take the release year of that thing, and then you look an equal amount of time into that thing's past and say, did this thing feel old when this thing was new? So given Doc's quandary, right? We're gonna look up PS3 release date, November 11th, 2006. We're in November, so that's handy, right? So we'll take 2023 minus 2006, 17 years.
Yeah, 17 years.
2006 minus 17 years is 1989. What came out in 1989? 1989 games.
Breach.
Golden Axe. Golden Axe was released in 1989. So was Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for NES. DuckTales.
All right, where is this going? Where is this going, Duke Donuts? Where is this going?
So the question is, right?
Oh, Colonel's
the
Request.
Balance here is here's the question. Did Ninja Gaiden for the NES feel old when the PlayStation 3 was released?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
There you go. It's been the same amount of time.
Yeah. No, and like it's even I find it even tighter than that, really, because like PS2 we were calling the SNES retro. PS2.
Right.
Was the S.
And so
how many generations is that really between the SNES and the PS2?
Right.
It's kind of like one and a half generations removed.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Like you think about some of the later SNES releases. So like Harvest Moon was released in 1996, right? So
wait, was Harvest Moon released in 96? Okay, yeah. I just had to realign some stuff in my brain. I hadn't really made that connection. Yeah, go on.
So if we were to find a game that was the midway point between 1996 and today, that would be 2010.
Yeah, I'll accept 2010 as the midpoint.
Roughly, give or take. So
which is
Red Dead
PS3,
Redemption,
right?
Red Dead Redemption, Call of Duty Black Ops, Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
Super Mario Galaxy 2, Mass Effect 2, Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty.
Wait, no, that's new. StarCraft 2 is new. That just came out.
Those are the games. Yeah, right. Those are the games that share equidistance with a Super Nintendo game. And it's like it's when you pin it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like what's that tool? It's a like a drafting tool, right? Where you pull on one side and the other side goes out the same amount, right? So you find a middle point and you pull it out, and it's.
I don't know what that tool's called.
So
sorry,
but you might be able to do it with a slide rule or something like that.
Yeah. That's more for calculations.
But the idea is that when you have that middle point, right, and you're like, okay, here's from today to this middle point, same distance in the past, you're like, holy fuck, the PS3 is ancient.
Now there is a valid option and argument to consider here against what you're saying, which is if you look at the graphical fidelity and the acceleration of quality, well, that's quality being a non-qualitative and more ephemeral term perhaps, but you can draw a line where it's like the rate of change from 86 to 96 is like more straight up than 96 to 2006, right? So, like that's like a diminishing returns curve. So the delta between a 96 game and a 2006 game is shorter than the delta between an 86 and a 96 game
in some ways, right? But another thing to consider is that between 96 and 2006, there were tremendous advances in things that weren't graphical rendering technology or necessarily artificial intelligence systems, right? Consider that we got the first RTS in like 87 or something on the C64, and that game roughly in a meta sense plays the same as games that came out yesterday, right? But a lot of the techniques and a lot of the game design and the additional a lot of the additional things that can be done in games and the way that games react and the way that like quality of life features have been added.
Right.
A lot of those things changed, but they're less visible, they're less measurable in terms of I can look at that screenshot and I can look at that screenshot and that one's 2D and that one's 3D, and so these are very different and more divorced than you can look at a game that came out, like for example, if you look at the first God of War game versus the most recent God of War game,
Right.
there's huge differences in storytelling techniques, in the way that characters are animated, the way that cutscenes are handled,
Mhm.
the way that the game flow is designed, a lot of those things. But you can't look at a screenshot and be like,
Yeah.
that one's 2D, that one's 3D,
Yeah.
so this one's clearly newer.
Yeah.
It's different than that. But there's also an interesting thing that in your brain, hello Hazemaker, in your brain, when you think back to how the PS3 looks, you make it look better than it actually did. Bring up a screenshot. Fair. Bring up a screenshot of Resistance 1 on the PlayStation 3.
All right, let's do this. Images, Resistance 1.
This is one of my favorite things because we want to see what Resistance 1 looks like. Resistance Fall of Man.
Is this a PS3 shot?
That's the other question, right?
I can't tell. We'll just open this image in a new tab. If you can
find contemporary reviews, those are usually a good source. However,
maybe games might help.
However, bear in mind that contemporary reviews used in-engine rendering that was specifically with Resistance, and I can tell you that they did this because I worked on the games. They had a mode in the engine where they would stop it, render a higher resolution version with textures loaded from disk, and better than the game could actually look, and it still looks like this, right?
And I'm going to say, looking at this, it looks pretty good.
It looks a little bit better than a PS2 game, but then when you compare that with like modern shooters, you see where things start to fall apart, right? So if you get like actual mid gameplay stuff, Resistance doesn't look that great in comparison to modern games. It looks dated, it looks old, but it looks old in specific ways that are less immediately measurable than the difference between 2D and 3D, right?
Yeah.
So let me see here. I can pull up what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, sure. If you want to drop some links, absolutely.
Yeah, here we go. It's actually from a YouTube thumbnail. Image link from a YouTube thumbnail.
Okay. Hold on. I was zoomed in. The compression artifacts were coming through. Yeah, that doesn't look as good. Yeah, that looked wonky. Yeah. Welcome back. Sorry about the rapid departure there. There was a broken sound in, like a glass shattering sound in the kitchen, and I had to run off, and I was like, it wasn't that bad in the end. It sounded really bad. I was like, I better go. Yeah, but anyway, everybody's safe. There's nobody hurt. It was just a glass. It's fine.
I was gonna say what you need to do for the podcast streams.
Yeah,
have only one redeem. Have it turn on a random amount of time between like an hour and an hour and a half in.
Right.
That costs like 1 million points. That just plays a really loud glass shattering sound.
But only in my headphones, so nobody else can hear it.
Only for you, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I like that one. That's a good idea. Just oh man.
Yeah, it's like the jump scare, and you got to randomize the amount of time, so you can't like look at the clock and be like, okay, thank goodness, right?
That's really funny. Yeah. Ruin Pixels, thanks for the resub in the break there. I appreciate it. Tier 2 resub have to be acknowledged with the full eyebrow raises. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
So
I kind of wanted to finish that conversation before we took the break, but I think we might as well take a break because we were about to anyway. Yeah. We can keep talking about it if you want.
So you're making a point. There's one particular thing I want to talk about with regards to games and generations and stuff like that, and kind of the underlying stuff that people do tend to miss when they think about the differences between more recent generations of games. Because you look at the game and you're like, okay, yeah, it's a 3D game, it has textures, it's pretty similar, but there's also a lot of stuff that's in the end quite different, right? When we look at the 7th generation of video games, we start to see DLC and add-ons become prevalent again, right, where those kind of died out between the early 90s and just after the turn of the century. And we don't see battle passes free to play. Those are very rare in that time, right? Now, a lot of people say like, oh, you know, PS2 is the last retro console because after that, online only games were commonplace. And yet the PS2 has Monster Hunter, that has those Capcom racing games. It has Final Fantasy 11. Online games and online only games were commonplace in the PlayStation 2 era. They just weren't the majority of titles. A lot of games had online multiplayer as like that was almost a given that every game would have it. Even RPGs would have like weird tacked on multiplayer modes sometimes in the 7th generation. But we didn't see battle passes, season passes. We didn't see a lot of the conventions that are now commonplace in the 7th generation.
Yeah.
And they started to become to occur in the 8th generation, and now they're all over the place. And loot boxes are a good example of this. We actually don't see loot boxes that much anymore.
Yeah, that's good, right?
Common.
Like even you don't have to go back too far to see the loot boxes
by other stuff.
Yeah,
right. They've been supplanted by other stuff that serves the same purpose of continuing monetization. But that field is where that like ongoing monetization is a field where technology is rapidly advancing, technology and technique. So the approaches that people use, like the first people who did really good with loot boxes made a killing. And then the second people didn't make as much of a killing, right? So like it declined kind of quickly for the people who were late to the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And a new methodology came up, and that field is rapidly evolving, and it's kind of quickly going to come to, I think, some kind of equilibrium that people are going to stop paying hundreds of dollars for their free-to-play game within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because they simply won't have the money to. And at that point, you have to sell people a game that they can play for a long period of time, because people are going to want to play a game for a long period of time and not, like, you know, given how the economy shakes out and that kind of stuff.
Like the lifetime customer value and all that kind of, those calculations are all based on this. How much loot can we get someone to spend? Like we want you to buy the premium coins so you can afford the premium equipment, yada yada, and then eventually you're in. Like, okay, lifetime customer value at $100 or whatever.
A big part of that, I think, is that a lot of people are the kind of whipped up FOMO hype of games is starting to wear off. I start to see this kind of fatigue of people who are like not that excited about new games, right?
Yeah.
And
the number of people who've groaned about even Starfield, which is like, to me, looks like a fairly pure launch of a game that's fairly traditional. I have seen a lot more people groaning about like, ugh, Starfield, eh? And I'm like, what's wrong with it? I haven't played it myself yet, but it looks fantastic. I'm still excited to play it.
I have a graph. I have a graph somewhere. Not a graph. That's not the right word. I have an image that I'm gonna send to you on Discord.
Okay.
to look at, and you can decide whether you want to put it on stream or not. But I noticed this earlier because I'm going to test it out. When you hear that there's problems with Starfield, think of this distribution.
All right, yeah, we'll open this one up and have a closer look at it here.
Yeah, think of this distribution, because what this shows is that a large number of people felt confident expressing their opinion that Starfield is in the lowest quintile of games ever made.
And it's not possible, right? Like, it just can't be.
A large number of people thought that Starfield was one of the worst games, the lowest rating they can possibly give to a game. And they were so confident in this opinion that they clicked a button to tell other people that that was their opinion. Right?
I can understand somebody dropping a 3 on a game that they don't love, that like this quality of game.
Now, the thing is, right, and I talk about this on my stream a bunch. We don't have to go into it here, but I have this. I've come upon this. I've come upon this idea, right, that the majority of people that you interact with in any kind of context, there's a pretty good statistical chance that the other side of that one side of that interaction is either a moron, a liar, or both.
Right.
And it's not an egalitarian thing. I'm not saying like, oh, I am so very clever, I'm never the moron. It's a call to vigilance, to say, am I being the moron when I say this thing out loud, when I express my opinion about this thing? Is the thing that I'm saying defensible? Can I explain why I have this opinion of a thing? Can I show you proof of why the thing is that the thing that I say is true, right? Can I show you what evidence to support my claim? I think about this stuff all the time because I'm pathologically afraid of being a moron, right?
Yeah.
And to that end, right, I want to profess that vigilance. I want to give people that tool set to say, before I say something, I'm going to think about what I say before I say it. And I'm going to think, am I the moron here? Am I lying? Perhaps I am. Right? And sometimes I'll say something and I'll say, I think that this is true, right? Earlier today, I was like, did AMI come out of some like spin-off of AMD and ATI when they were like merging at some point in the 90s? And it turned out to be not true, right? And I know, like, there's a reason why I was like, is this a thing that happened?
Yeah.
I think I kind of remember this, but can someone clarify? And someone looked it up, and sure enough, it wasn't true, right? But that's why I don't say, yes, AMI was because of AMD, right? Like, I was like, okay, I totally like, I totally didn't know, but it was something that I was like, I think I kind of remember something, but it turned out what I was doing, AMD, ATI, AMI.
Yeah, it makes some sense. Like, yeah, I can see it. I'd believe it if you told me.
Right. But that's the thing, is that I didn't say it like it was a fact.
Yeah.
I presented it as something like, I'm kind of confused about this. Does anyone know the truth? Right. And that's a big difference in presentation from, here's the thing that I know, right? I wasn't confident. And so like, it's tough, right? And again, right, to Starfield, right? 2,000 something people out of 8,000 reviews were confident enough to say this game is one of the worst games to exist on this platform.
Yeah.
It's in the lowest quintile.
I cannot imagine they had that bad of an experience with the game. I just can't imagine it. Like, everything I've seen about Starfield myself, like, I have never seen anything that would give me that kind of a visceral reaction.
So
Personally.
I'll give you I'll tell you this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I played 160 hours of Starfield primarily on stream.
Right.
Doing
that's a lot of hours.
Almost every type of activity in it. Hey, Ilves. Every type of activity in it, every different section of the game, playing a lot of side missions and doing all kinds of stuff in it, and finally finishing the game. Now, I finished the game because I was worried after 160 hours of save time that it might become a little unstable. Bethesda games kind of do that.
Yeah,
They're not
could happen.
technically perfect.
Foreseeable.
After I finished the game, I started a new character and played an additional like 60 hours off stream.
Mm-hmm. 1 star?
What's that?
Is it 1 star? A 1-star game?
It's absolutely not. It's one of the best games that Bethesda has ever made, and it's probably the best game that's come out this year, in my opinion.
That's what I want to hear, because I'm definitely excited to play it.
A big thing is, right, I don't think it's a game for everyone. It offers a really specific thing, and it does that specific thing nearly as well as I can imagine a game can do, right? And it makes some really significant advances in things that I care about, like respecting players' time. When you play Starfield will let you go through the motions of walking around everywhere if you want to.
Yeah.
You can't fly between planets in space because there's literally nothing there.
Right.
And it plays a cutscene of you flying between the planets.
That's fair.
But if you don't want to, you can hit a button, click on a mission, and hit a button to go straight to where that mission takes place. You don't have to do all of the sloggery between everything that's not important if you don't want to. It's such a very hands-off approach that they say it, and the way I interpret it is this, right? When I play a game where the game says, no, you can't do that. You can't do that yet. You're not allowed to do it that way, right? To me, that projects a lack of confidence in the developer's abilities to produce a holistic solution for the player to poke at and break, and for the developer to remain confident in what they've produced, right? They give you all the options. They let you fuck off in the middle of a quest and go do something else because they know you'll come back. They're confident that you're invested enough in their story that you can go do your thing and come back, and they don't lock you into it and say, you can't, oh, you can't do that right now. Not when someone's following you. Gather your party before venturing forth, kind of stuff. That kind of stuff ends up being like, to me, those limits and those locks and those funnels end up being something that speaks to me of the developer wanted to make a movie, and they were afraid of people not taking their content seriously, so they didn't let you do anything outside of this narrow tube that they're going to shove you down.
And I have felt the same way as well. Like, one of the games that strikes me as like doing that kind of thing, but done actually pretty well, like not actually ruining the game for me, was Need for Speed Underground, where you'd start that game, you get a whole bunch of cutscenes, you go through like a whole bunch of stuff, and then you get to race with this like awesome car. It's like, and then a bit more story, and then you're thrown back into like, oh, you're just starting out, you got this little piece of crap car, and you got to build it up, and it kind of just opens up again from there. So they like railroad you through the first like 20 minutes or hour or so of gameplay, and then it sort of like starts to open up again, and you get access to a bit more areas of the city, and it feels like the progression there isn't really hurting the gameplay as much. Yeah.
and I think a big part of that, right, is that like, and I was talking to Mr. Radon about this,
Mhm.
and he was like, I don't know if I would like Starfield, and I was like, I can't say that you would like it. I don't know if it's a game for you. And he had a really good way of describing this. He's like, man, I don't want to be given a lot of options. He's like, I just want to get shoved down the story tube. And I was like, you know what? That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. And that means that Starfield isn't going to be a game that you're really going to enjoy, because if you shove down the story tube, you're going to be disappointed, because it's not
Mm.
lengthy and wordy, and it's not like there's a few of these big set pieces, but largely it's like, I went into one of the story missions, and I was like, I do not want to deal with talking to this guy. So I just shot him, and it was like, okay, let's go. Right. And like my companion was like, I think you could have handled that better, but we got the thing we needed. And I was like,
I love it.
Let me shoot the dude. Yes.
That's fantastic. That's really good. Bethesda games have been afraid of letting you do that sort of thing a lot. So here that they've allowed you to do that is very good.
Now, to be fair, there's a lot of unkillable NPCs because it would like seriously break the game.
Mhm.
But like, it's one of those things that to me, it was like, it was just such a great experience to be like, wait, what if I hide behind this thing and I take out my super powered sniper rifle and shoot the guy?
Mhm.
And it was like, yay, you did it. Hooray. And it was like, yes.
They keep letting us
What
do
if we
these
can
things. That's
kill
very
him?
good. That's very good. I'm glad to hear it.
And it was like, I was like, oh, I want so many games to do this, because like,
Mhm.
when a game is like telling me, you need to care about this character, you need to talk to this person,
Yeah.
you need to let the evil guy win so the story can continue.
Right.
That gets on my nerves, because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't.
The whole
Like,
oh, you were captured in a cutscene thing and all that. That's like so overplayed. I hate it.
Forced lost fights are the one that
Yeah.
really get under my skin. I was playing
Yeah.
Star Ocean 2 on PlayStation, and I got to the second disc right near the end, right before the final dungeon, and it was like, by that point, I think 8 forced loss fights, or fights that had like
Wow.
conditions where you couldn't win.
Mhm.
And I got to a dungeon and it started crashing, and I got out of the dungeon and went to the next place, and there was a forced loss fight again, and I was like, I'm done.
You're done with that?
can't do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So in summary, then the PlayStation 3 is retro.
Here's how I look at it, right? I have 3 tools. I have 3 tools in my Is It Retro toolbox, right?
Right.
The first one is the equidistance formula, right?
Yep, that's the one we covered, yeah.
Which is the PS3 now PS3 Ninja Gaiden 1, right? That's a pretty striking distance there, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. First one is the equidistance formula.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is what I call the like I call it the age formula. Hold on. I have to find it. It's in my Discord. 1 second here.
For those of you who have joined us since we started this discussion, this is Duke Donuts. You can find him at twitch.tv/Duke Donuts and follow his socials from there. I guess on the podcast, all of the alerts and sound commands are disabled for the moment. So if you want to drop follows or anything else, feel free to do that. We just won't see any sounds or sparkles on the screen. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
So the second one is the gaming age classification brackets,
Right.
where it's contemporary, aging, obsolete, classic, vintage, oldies, classical, ancient, primal, ancient, and primordial. And that's at here. Let me.
Where did you? Is this something you coined, or did you dig this up from somewhere?
No. I just invented this out of whole cloth.
Okay. Did you create an infographic?
No, I just have the text. I haven't done an infographic.
It sounds like something we need to get an infographic for.
Yeah. It totally should have an infographic.
Yeah.
That's at So anything that's up to 5 years old
Why is it obsolete? Why does
contemporary.
obsolete exist in this list? I have a contention with obsolete. Can you
That's
explain
exactly why it exists.
it? Okay, all right.
It exists to put barbs at people.
Okay.
So contemporary is 0 to 5 years. Anything within the last 5 years is contemporary.
Sure,
right?
I'd accept that. Yeah.
Aging is 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I'll
Obsolete
accept it. It's a bit. 10 years is a bit
20
long.
years. So the PlayStation 3 is obsolete, right? PlayStation 3 is obsolete. The Xbox 360 is obsolete. The Wii is obsolete.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Then classic. So PlayStation 2 is classic now. The Super Nintendo is classic. Then vintage, which is like a bigger segment, I think, if I'm reading this right. God, I can't.
Yeah, I'm starting to lose track.
Yeah, it's fine. So then vintage is like your 8-bit consoles, your early 16-bit stuff,
Mhm.
microcomputers. Oldies is then stuff like the
Like
PET, Apple II,
home Pong
stuff from the
consoles.
70s. What's that?
The home Pong consoles. Pong at
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
tennis for two,
And then,
whatever. Yeah.
And then classical is like, are there any classical games? Yes, there are classical games. Classical games are like tennis for two,
Right.
I think counts.
Yeah.
And then you have ancient, and then you get into stuff like chess. What's the Mancala? What's the other one?
You've gone away from
Ancient Egypt.
electronic games, and I know I don't know.
No,
anything.
I know. That's because there aren't yet. The game of ancient games. There are no ancient video games yet.
Yeah, backgammon.
We need another couple hundred years.
Right. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe maybe like the Antikythera mechanism is gonna have contemporary devices that are purely there for entertainment purposes. I don't know.
And then of course for for primordial games, it's like throw rock and stick.
Throw rock and stick. I mean, yeah, okay, like soccer and those kind of games. They're ancient counterparts.
Like literally just throw a rock for fun.
I mean, throwing rocks for fun is actually fun.
Throw rock and stick are two different games, to be clear.
Oh, okay.
Having a stick,
Mm-hmm.
You went on a hike recently. Did you pick up a stick?
I did, yeah. I did.
Was it fun?
I had a nice stick. I maintained that stick.
there you go.
My hands, my sweaty palms oiled it. It had a nice sheen to it by the time I was finished. It was good. Good stick.
Successful primordial gaming. Stick. A primordial game.
All right. Well, I appreciate this answer. Very detailed answer. Thank you.
Oh, and there's still the third one, which is it's specifically tailored to piss off wine snobs.
Specifically tailored to piss off wine snobs.
Yeah.
Like people who enjoy wine.
People who are really like the gatekeepers of good wine, right?
Okay.
Oh, you drink Charles Shaw? How plebeian kind of people. Right?
Okay. So you've crafted a mechanism for pissing them off about retro games.
Yes.
All right, I'm ready to hear this.
The overlap is almost nil.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the revelation here.
So you say, well, I think games become retro at about the same age that a good red wine is ready to drink.
Okay, and as a non-wine snob, I don't know how a wine snob reacts to this.
No wine snobs can agree on what constitutes a good red wine, and because it's such a broad thing, right? It could mean anything in a like range of like 10 years.
Right.
And also, ready to drink is another subjective thing. So if you say that around two wine snobs, they'll start arguing with each other about wine.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Okay, I see. So it could be 10 years to any number of years after, I suppose then. All right.
It's like roughly 12 years, because to me, a good wine is like a Bordeaux or something like that. They usually take 10 to 12 years to like mellow out the tannins or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Mellow out the tannins.
Yeah.
You gotta put in the barrel, the oak barrel. Right.
I forget. It's like with wine, you press it, you age it until it's alcoholic, then you bottle it,
Yeah.
you leave it in the bottle for 10 years or whatever.
So you age it in the barrel first, right? It does a lot of work in the barrel.
You ferment it in the barrel. It's
and then it
fermented
goes
in
into
the
the bottle.
barrel. And then when it's in the bottle, it mellows out over time. If you drink a red wine too early, it'll be like, it'll give you fizz face, basically.
Fizz. Okay, yeah.
Fizz face, yeah.
Fizz.
Yeah.
Don't even know what that means. Okay, all right, I'm with you. I should start drinking wine so that I can have this conversation properly.
Get a look on your face like you smelled some piss.
Okay, all right.
as Mac Dre so eloquently put it.
Oh, perfect. All right, I think we can now officially end segment 1, even though we kind of had to take that break early because of the breakage.